The hardest thing to program in the game wasn't the Colossus, it was the horse, according to the creator.
I mean, I fucking believe that.
Yeah, it seemed pretty hard. It seemed like you didn't accomplish it.
But to say, it shows.
Came up a little short.
And welcome back to another episode of the Games Gone By podcast. It is Saturday, July 5th at the time of this recording. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me as always, Jeff and Austin. How are you guys feeling about discussing what is one of the worst gaming experiences I've ever had?
I cannot wait to complain about another PS2 classic. That's all I'm gonna say.
This is a cult classic. Like, you guys, people actually like this game, right? Like, can I meet them? Do they exist?
Yeah, emphasis on the word cult.
It is very much beloved, is all I'm saying. It's very much beloved.
I just came back from the pool myself, and I am a better swimmer than the character in this game.
God, don't worry. I will complain about the swimming at some point. Today, we are discussing the 2005 game, Shadow of the Colossus. Of course, we played the 2018 remake, so a 7-year-old remake to a 20-year-old game. Wikipedia describes this as it often being regarded as an important example of video games as art due to its minimalist landscapes, immersive gameplay, and the emotional weight on the player character's journey. We'll get into it, but what a load of shit.
So what that is like the most charitable interpretation of a developer who I feel like ran out of time trying to make a game he really wanted to make and made a good decision, which is just cut everything. All right. We'll have a world that you can move around in. There will be bosses and all of the mechanics will technically work, but everything else out the window. We don't have time for it, boys. Ship.
I do think a game designed around like entirely large scale, massive boss fights where it's like each fight is a puzzle that you have to kind of solve the rhythm to defeat this boss is like a cool idea. I just don't think Shadow of the Colossus executes that the way I would have wanted it executed.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this game endlessly reminds me of the Wind Temple in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And it's like, oh, actually, that's what I want to go play. This game just reminds me that I should be playing Tears of the Kingdom and not Shadow of the Colossus.
I was reading that there were apparently 48 Colossi originally.
Yes.
Later trimmed to 24, which was then even later trimmed down to 16 due to time and hardware limitations. So the idea that they couldn't do everything they wanted to do, I think, is definitely true. But we'll get into some of that. At its core, this is a game about a boy and his horse and a woman and monsters.
That's it.
And if there's anything else going on,
the game.
I don't know it.
Are we sure it's about a woman? It's more about a corpse than a woman.
That's true. I was convinced she was never going to wake up, but...
Yeah. Spoilers for the entire ending here, which honestly is kind of major spoilers because all of the plot happens while the credits are rolling.
Yes.
She does...
When they say this game is minimalist, they mean virtually non-existent as far as like any sort of story or character development. And I can understand the approach, right? Like, that's an interesting idea, but it just kind of leaves you wondering, like, what am I doing for 95% of the game?
The fact that there was like the first cutscene after like the title intro in the entire game is after you defeat your 12th Colossus, and it shows the little like horse party following you. It's so funny to me. It's like you've sunk hours into this game, and then they're finally like, oh wait, there is a plot. I promise. Don't go anywhere.
The plot being minimal, it's like fine. The characterization, no, it's not minimal. It is absent. It is missing. It is not in the game.
Yes.
There's
yes.
at no point, like one of my biggest complaints with the opening, because there's like before you actually start from the menu, there's like a big cinematic, and then you can start, and there's like another one that leads in. It tells us nothing about anything about these two characters, right? Like you don't even really get a sense of like, is he looking at like a pocket watch or something? Like he's in a hurry? Is he like sad? What's his connection to this girl? Nothing. I mean, truly nothing. All of this opening is just like, look at the pretty graphics. Here's a demon. Now go kill the Colossi. And like, I'll admit I'm not always the most observant or paying attention to these kind of things, but I just got nothing out of the storytelling in this game.
But you know what? I will give them props for, again, with the whole them cutting down to 12 Colossus. Obviously, this game was like scaled way down from whatever the writer's ambition was. I feel like he could have left more tidbits of plot in the game that just wouldn't have made any sense or would have just been repeatedly unsatisfying. So whatever they did to just cut out all of it and kind of wrap it up during the credits roll, I approve of that. I like that. Like, get out of your own way, admit that you have failed, and just know that there's a corpse you're trying to revive.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with that. In that the way a lot of people online tend to describe this is it's like, oh, it works so well because it's minimal. And I'm like, no, I think it works so well because it stays out of the way, like you said. Like, I think that's part of why it works well enough is because there isn't actually that much time to get bogged down in nonsense. It's just Colossus to Colossus to Colossus. And I think that it is probably better for that, for sure.
The story is more minimal than like any Zelda game or anything like that. But it kind of has the same idea, I think, of just like a very simple story, boy saves girl, boy goes on journey type energy to it, which I think works, except there's just so little there that it's like you don't get invested in anything. And I think the morals and kind of the things that the game is trying to teach or express just gets bogged down in a lot of the mechanics being bad.
Yeah, like somewhere in my notes I described, I was like, after the opening cutscene, we know as much about this game's story as we do like Donkey Kong. There's like a beast up high that we have to climb to save a girl. And like that's it. That's what we know. But as much as people will praise those sort of minimal aspects, I guess like the real reason this game is remembered ultimately is because of the gameplay, and not even so much like the minute-to-minute gameplay as just the sort of overarching experience of like the vast, huge open world that's really detailed and just the scale of everything, the scale of the mountains, the scale of the colossi, the scale of the path you take to get to each boss fight. Just everything is really big, I would say.
I don't think I've ever played a game where like the main character feels just utterly puny next to the only enemies in the game, which are these colossal colossi, these boss fights. It was interesting throughout the game to see the varying sizes of the different colossi. Yes. I was expecting all of them to be enormous, but they did vary a good bit, which I think works for the game. But yeah, I have never played anything else that has such a, what's the word I'm looking for, gulf between like your character and the creatures that you're supposed to be fighting.
Yeah.
I think it works to like there's definitely a very singular vision with this game, and it's like boy kills big colossi, and a lot of the time it executes that really well. And I think you're right, it's just because of the scope and the scale of all of this. And I imagine on the PS2 like that was something that hadn't been done before at that level, like we see it later with like God of War and things like that, but I think this probably predates like God of War 2 or 3, which I think is when it starts to really scale up those boss fights. So you can kind of see them going for something bigger and more ambitious. And in the PS2, I can imagine that would be like revolutionary for a lot of people.
Yeah, you have to really take yourself back in time to 2005 and try to remember the sort of experiences that were available at the time. And I have to imagine that like rearing back and driving your sword into like the head of one of these gigantic colossi just must have felt much more satisfying in the PS2 era than it does in 2025.
Austin, do you remember like Microsoft had this game under development for a while called Scalebound that eventually got canceled? Yeah, so I want to say that was something that they were definitely trying to play off a similar idea as this, because it was going to be about fighting these enormous creatures. I think it was going to be like a multiplayer game though, right?
Yeah, I feel like they never got like deep enough into development to even know what that game was going to be like. But I remember the early trailers being like big dragons, and like your dude had like headphones on. He was like listening to rock music as you were like scaling these big dragon creatures. I can't remember if it was multiplayer or not. But it sounds like this started out as multiplayer too. So
yeah, that was interesting to read. Is apparently this was conceived as a multiplayer follow-up to Eco. But it just got like reworked over and over in production. Eventually they decided that like it would work best as a standalone single player experience, which is probably for the best, because like unless they figured out a way to make the minute to minute mechanics way more engaging, I don't know that playing this with someone else would have actually been any more fun. It may have even just made it feel like even cheaper as you just utterly destroy these colossi, because for the most part, like they go down in both a quick and unsatisfying manner. Not all of the time, but I think half of them I was just like, okay, next, like, on to the next one.
it gets a little, I don't want to call it repetitive because like, so you can see where they intentionally tried to make every Colossus feel unique, right? And I'm afraid in like an effort to do that, they kind of just like made up some random bullshit that you have to figure out for each Colossus, while you ultimately still do the same repetitive thing, which is like rear back and yell "Hiya!" and then stab your sword into its ass or whatever it may be,
or wings or head or any random part of the Colossus.
What was that weird bulbous thing on the bridge boss, the one in the lake that you had to get on top of? He like rears up and then it's just like, it's something on his belly. I guess it was on his belly. That's what I should call it.
I think it's just like a stomach, yeah. But you're just like hanging at a weird spot and just stabbing his stomach over and over.
It was a weird looking protrusion. I was like, what the fuck?
And I guess like a couple of them have that. Like the flying dragon has the sacks.
Right. I mean, a lot of these designs are really cool. Like a lot of them I think are maybe cool as being generous, but they're at least like unique and they're going for something different. I think it works that all of them look animalistic because it kind of makes you feel empathy for them a little bit, right? Because this whole game is supposed to be like, you're not supposed to feel good about killing the Colossi. And it's like, yeah, I don't, but not for the reasons you want me to. It's because it doesn't feel good to kill them. Like gameplay-wise, it just doesn't feel good. But they definitely want you to feel like you are, doing something bad. You're doing something wrong by killing these innocent creatures. And I think by making them look animalistic, like they remind you of an animal. And that's like, oh, I don't want to kill random animals. So you kind of do feel a little bit bad about it, but never enough to actually get the point of the story across, in my opinion.
Oh, I wanted to murder every fucking one of these bastards. Like, I don't think a single. You're right about how cool they look, though. Like, if you just showed me a series of screenshots of even the original game, right? It doesn't even have to be the remaster with the super nice graphics. If you just showed me screenshots of all the Colossi, I would have been ready to play this game. It looks cool as hell, and you're telling me that I have to scale giant monsters and bring them down with just my sword? That sounds like a great idea. But like you're talking about, Austin, when you actually do it, like you don't get satisfaction. It's like you're chasing this high and that just never comes about. Like I didn't rate a single one of these Colossi 5 out of 5 stars.
Some of the concept art that you unlock actually looks really cool. I'm not super into concept art usually because it either kind of looks like either really under detailed or nothing like the finished product. But these look really cool and they look a lot like the Colossi actually come out in the end. So it's clear they had, and maybe that was concept art for the remake is probably what it was. I don't know exactly. It doesn't distinguish that in the menu, right? But still, it looks like they had a very strong artistic vision, even if the gameplay vision feels like it kind of meandered a little bit here and there. We may as well just start talking about some of these fights in detail. We're not going to go over every single one, but I figured we'll go over some of our favorites, followed by some of our least favorite. Why don't we start with the third one, which I'm calling Big Sword Bro. These things have these names that were apparently like leaked from some like Japanese guide in 2005 on some forums. Turns out someone totally made it up, but it has stuck around. And so forgive me for not using those because they don't mean anything to me and I just didn't bother to make a list of them. We're going to be calling them by the numbers. I think that's the most telling thing anyway. That's how I kind of memorize them. So we're going to start with number 3. This is a very tall humanoid with a giant sword. Now, Jeff, I just kind of an aside. I know you had a little trouble getting there.
Oh my God. I forgot. I've blocked out all of the like getting to the different Colossi, but yes, I didn't mind this fight too much, but this is like the first jump in the game that you have to think about at all. And the game just isn't programmed well enough for this jump. I must have leaped and fallen into the water at least 15 times and done the circle. I almost quit the game before the third Colossus. So comparatively, I had a great time fighting this dude. You just got to run up a sword. It's fine.
No, that jump is terrible. I did it. I had to also do it like 5 times. It's just the angle of it is bad, and I had to look it up because I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Like, all it was a jump, so I was like, surely I can't be doing this incorrectly. So I looked it up, and I'm like, nope, I'm just not hitting the jump right, I guess.
I tried so many different strategies. I was like, oh, you have to jump this way or that way, and it's just poorly programmed. You have to jump straight, and then this is where you realize that Link, never mind, I'm calling him Link, can like float through the air when you push the stick. And you can direct him that way, and you kind of just have to like push him like in the air onto the thing, and then you can do a normal climb and jump. But it's total ass, and he's also very bad at swimming. So yeah,
it's funny because climbing up there was the most fun I had in this game until the 5th fight, and I must have just stumbled into making this jump work because I never fell off. But it's weird because you have to like. While holding R2 to stay held on, you then have to move the stick toward the direction you want to jump while holding X, and he kind of spins around and reaches his hand out in the direction he's going to jump. And then if you let go of X or R2, he then makes the jump in that direction.
Oh, are you talking about the leap from the cube onto the platform?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy. That I did the first time. I'm talking about getting onto the fucking cube.
From the ramp onto the cube?
From the ramp,
Yes.
What do you? That's even easier. You jump and hit R2 when he runs into it.
No, it never grabbed.
Yeah.
It never grabbed. I did that like 8 times and it never grabbed. It's a horrible.
I'm actually like at a total loss of what you guys are talking about now because I figured you meant the last jump.
No, that's trivial.
That's easy.
I did that the first time. It's the stupid lock-on mechanism. I think both me and Austin got caught up with like trying to angle our character towards the cube before jumping, and the game can't do that. He can only jump in a like what's the word I'm looking for? Perpendicular line from the edge you're leaping off of. So you have to jump off to the left and then in the air kind of float into grabbing onto it. If you don't do that, you might end up jumping more towards the big gap and fall, or it's like a whole thing. I promise you it's not.
It was like auto aiming you toward the plateau instead of the block.
Yes, it would do that a lot.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Okay.
Or you wouldn't get close enough to the face you had to grab onto. You would get too close to the other side, and so he wouldn't like lock on grab. It's so fucking stupid.
That's very strange. I literally was just wrong about what you guys struggled with because I couldn't imagine that having been it. But
oh no, it was terrible.
Maybe we were playing 2 different games because I fucking hated this next fight.
At various points, it felt that way. I actually really like this next fight, though. I like Big Sword Bro.
Why don't you take us through how he works?
Yeah, so basically, he, giant, like one of the probably tallest, like straight up tallest Colossi, and he has this big sword in his hand. And he'll like randomly smash it into the ground, like straight down. He'll just like thrust it into the ground if you're close to him. Or if you're kind of far away, he'll swing it down and you have to run up that. But to do that, you have to knock his armor off first. So there's like a little spot on the ground, a little like metal area that he has to swing and hit to knock his armor off. Which I know, Adam, I know you love when the voice is like, knock his armor off, but gives you absolutely zero context of how or what you're supposed to do with that.
I think my issue with this one is, so there's a button you can hold, L2, that makes you kind of angle your camera toward the Colossus, and I figured that would be useful for this guy. No, because it wants you to look at the ground, and it wants you to find a spot on the ground that's metal for him to slam the sword into. And once I realized that, it's like, okay, I got this. But I kept angling the camera in a way where I would never see this thing on the ground. And then beyond that, I swear, I actually fought him again on normal. I got back up to like the 6th boss on normal last night. And he kept doing the right swing the entire time. And I don't understand what happened the first time I played through. Maybe it's because it was on hard. He just only wanted to stomp and do the vertical thing. Like, he literally didn't do the horizontal one once in my first attempt, and I was so confused how you're supposed to get this guy. Which sort of leads into some of my other complaints, is just like, there seems to be so much inconsistency to their behavior that I wasn't sure how to trigger the things that I knew I was supposed to be doing half the time. But this guy really isn't so bad. Once he slams the ground and the armor falls off, like, you run up the sword, and that's kind of cool. Then you climb his arm, then he has a couple weak spots. It definitely has a cool sense of scale to it, because he's upright, a little taller than the second one, and he's much just taller upright than the first one. So I can definitely see why you liked this one.
The sequence of these like first 3 Colossi, I think, does work really well because they're all pretty different. Like maybe the first and the third are both kind of like tall, upright humanoids, but this guy looked really weird.
Like really lanky and strange.
I was actually, did you guys notice he has like orbs? Like his feet are like rounded. He's like like walking on little peg leg looking things. So I was convinced for a minute that I had to like do something with his legs to like make him trip and fall over, and that would break the armor. But then I got lucky and he just hit the metal spot. So
I do think this is one of the few that like uses the weapon in an interesting way because like
Definitely.
a couple of them have weapons, but most of them don't really use them. Like I guess the 15th one does a little bit, but like most of them just kind of walk around with things in their hands. This one's like actually trying to swing at you and hit you. He's like, "Why are you on my platform? Get off!" So I kind of liked that.
So I would assume the first one does, but you just don't really get the like. You have to go out of your way to give him a chance to use his club because it's set up to where you just immediately get on his foot and kill him, right?
Which is, I think, kind of the point, right? The emphasis of this game being that you're, killing them in a way that feels wrong, right? They're just kind of lazing around in their pasture, and you're like climbing up and murdering them. Like that's the emphasis. So I guess it makes sense that most of them don't attack back, really. A couple of them do, of course, but a lot of them are just like wandering around, and then you go up and stab them repeatedly for some reason. So. I think this one is interesting because it doesn't do that. Like it is fighting back. He's like, "Why are you on my land? Go away."
I mean, I will say that having started out on the hard difficulty, it feels like they're fighting back on hard. The very first Colossus stepped on me and killed me before I murdered him on my first playthrough of this game. And that is not the vibe on normal where like you can get stepped on and Link just doesn't care.
I guess that is worth mentioning what we all played on before we get too deep in this, because I played it on normal through the whole thing.
Yeah, I played the first two on normal, and I was so bored that I thought I needed to start over on hard. I think if I just got to the third guy on normal, I wouldn't have bothered to put it on hard because I would have been so frustrated with this thing. But so it went, and I ended up playing through the whole thing on hard.
Hard is a huge mistake. Don't play on hard. I think I might have liked this game more if I had just played on normal. My final playtime was 6 hours on hard. That got me to the 11th Colossus. And then 5 hours and 45 minutes on normal, where I beat the entire game.
I think mine was around 7.5 total playtime.
And part of that would have been you knew how some of them worked, but the other part of that is just that you have to. So maybe it's a good point. Just go ahead and point out how these mechanics kind of work real quick. So as you're climbing the Colossus, there's these weak points that you have to stab, and you can only hit each one a couple times before it disappears, and you have to go to the next weak point to finish it off. On hard, not only are there more weak points on the Colossus, but you have to hit them more times. And there's a stamina meter that you have that slowly drains, and it drains more when they're shaking and whatnot. So like that just means that on hard, you have to do the thing that many more times. And sometimes getting back on the Colossus was an enormous pain in the ass, like depending on the fight. And that could be the difference between a 5-minute and a 25-minute fight, like easily.
Yeah, definitely. Because like so many of these fights, it feels really cool to get onto the Colossus's first like weak point and start stabbing him. The problem is that you just have to do that too many times. Like on hard, the fights just last way too long. You have to remember this is an older game. Just don't play on hard. Play normal, and then if you really like it, you can challenge yourself.
Yeah, I think normal was probably a much more in line with the difficulty I like to play things on. I just thought it wouldn't be, but like you said, since it's a 20-year-old game, normal is actually like a reasonable challenge, I feel like. We can move on to the next one now that we really liked, or I should say that we kind of liked. I think there was only two that we all gave full ratings to, right? But this one was the 7th one, and it is an electric eel in this lake. And I really liked this one other than the fact that swimming in this game just sucks.
Yeah.
Swimming is really bad. It's just so slow. Like it's just no matter what you do, it's just very slow. And
there's only like 3 lakes in this game, and they're all huge. They're all the biggest lakes you've ever seen in a video game before. It's crazy.
And it's like you have to swim through the entire thing. Good luck. This one was cool. I felt you had to maybe go through the process like one or two too many times, and it was kind of frustrating to get him at first because I didn't realize at first what you were supposed to do. I was just like swimming around in circles trying to figure out how to get him to attack me, and it wasn't until I like was right over him that he would finally come after me. I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to go towards the thing that's trying to kill me. Got it. But once I got him to like do the thing, it's a cool like scale, and you have to climb on his back and stab him, and then he goes underwater and you get thrown off again, and it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, surfing the eel was a lot of fun.
What I struggled with on this one was like the first couple times, it's like I could only get so close that I kept dying into the lightning, or so far away that I couldn't get on his tail by the end. And it took me a few attempts to really find that like sweet spot of where to be when he comes out of the water so that neither of those two things happens to you. But yeah, this one was fun. I think on hard, I fell off a couple times just because there would be these really long extended sections underwater, and I'm just waiting for him to come back up so I can let go and get my stamina back, and it never happens, and then you fall off. Luckily, you cannot drown. You will just very slowly, because you're in water in this game, so of course it's happening very slowly, swim up to the surface, and you'll get all your stamina back, and then you can just like do the process again.
Yeah, that's very much intentional. Like you basically, and you see this later with like the flying sandworm and stuff too. There are segments where like, oh, you've run out of time. You now are forced off of the Colossus, and you have to repeat the whole cycle of getting back onto him, which just happens much more frequently on hard, whereas normal is closer to like a reasonable amount of times doing these sequences.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the first one that has some type of attack that's like so deadly, I feel like, other than being stomped on. The ones up to this point, like they don't really shoot anything at you. They don't really throw anything at you, anything like that. But these, like, if you mistime the lightning, especially on hard, you're just done. Like you're starting that fight over.
Yep, game over.
But it becomes like once you get the first one down and you see that, oh, okay, that actually stopped the lightning for this one spike, then you know that you just need to time it for the next couple. And it's really cool. It's cool to go under the water. There's this feeling when you're looking down and it's coming straight at you that even though you know this is what you're doing, it's terrifying, right? I mean, there's a sea creature coming up to eat you and you have to get out of the way just in time. Like it's really this is one that really invoked a lot of like dread in the process. I think I thought this one was pretty cool.
This is also one that really benefits a lot from the remade graphics, like the sleekness of like the water reflections as like part of his body emerges and you like get up out of the water and it's all like running off of him. It just looks really cool with the updated water effects. I'm sure the original 2005 doesn't look quite as good as this. This one looks pretty beautiful.
Yeah. And one thing I complained a lot as we played this was that there's only 3 colors in this game. And that's like a little bit of a problem for me with some of the palettes. But overall, I mean, the actual art direction's pretty cool. Like the creature design is awesome. So I really have, even though they're not super colorful, there's no complaints about the Colossi themselves. I mean, they look really cool. And I think the eel is one of the cooler looking ones for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the fights with color.
Yeah, the electricity definitely helps give a spark of color and like a difference than all the other ones for sure. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, hey, yeah.
Well done. Austin, do you want to tell us about number 14?
Yeah, I love the platform Panther, as we're gonna affectionately call it. So there's a couple Colossi in this game that are a bit smaller scale. They're not giant creatures. They're little like smaller bulls or panthers or something of that sort. And this is one of those, and you're kind of in this abandoned city, this like ruined ancient city, and you have to run across these like dilapidated towers and get him to run into these pillars to knock them down. And eventually he'll crash through part of the city, and that's when you can finally knock off his armor and attack him. And I really like this one because I think the platforming in this game is actually pretty good. Like for the most part, other than like 1 or 2 really terrible jumps like we talked about earlier, I think a lot of the platforming is fun. You actually have to think about it. You have to grab on. It's not just automatic. And you have to worry about stamina and, your movement and all that stuff. So this one was really cool to kind of integrate all the platforming elements into a boss fight. So I really liked doing this one.
I absolutely felt fucking cool leaping from collapsing tower to like try and get to the right position to crush this boss. But like with everything in this game, it's just not quite polished or refined enough. It took
well, of course,
forever for him to actually like try and bulldoze the towers at my playthrough. So I would kind of like, sometimes I'd pick up my phone and just like wait for the controller to vibrate in my other hand, which would let me know I could get ready to jump. But this fight also has like, is one of the examples of actually like good environmental design. If you look at these towers you're supposed to be standing on, you can see how they've like got chunks taken out of the bottom, or like they look like they should be fallen over. And there are other collapsed ones in the battle arena. So for once, there's a lot of clues to tell you like, go do something about like the walkways that are just like a little out of reach, and these towers that look clearly scalable are actually scalable. So I know this is Colossus like 14, but I finally felt like the environment like clued me into the right direction for once.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I know we'll complain about it later for sure when we talk about some of the worst Colossi, but so much of the visual communication in this game is like bad, like just downright actually bad. So for it to have what you're supposed to do so clearly visually communicated by the environment was refreshing by Colossus 14.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
This one was weird because, so I don't know if you guys experienced this, but it's kind of what you're talking about, Jeff. Like, so you got on the tower, and it seemed like the first time he charged it, pretty quick, great, awesome. And then he just like dicked around in a circle until you shot him with the bow, and then he decided to charge it again. And I don't know why, because he's full of armor, and these arrows are just bonking off of him. And I don't know why that enrages him so much to come charge the tower. But I figured that was like the quickest way to get him to charge it the second time. And again, it's not something that's super obvious, especially because he's right underneath you, and looking down over these tiny edges frequently just made him lose his balance. And I had to I wouldn't fall off because you can just grab it and climb back on. But like when you get too close to an edge in this game, it's like he starts stumbling before any human approaching an edge would actually start to stumble, and it's so dumb. But this one, overall, I agree. I did like. It's really cool when the towers are collapsing and you jump to the next one. It's one of the few times in this game that you actually have to like time your jumps. It's surprising in a game about running across a bunch of giant creatures. It's very rare that you have to time your actual jumps. There's a handful for sure, but yeah. The only reason I really didn't like this one is because at the end I got obsessed with wanting to get the achievement for killing one with a fall stab. And so I tried this about 7 times, kept bonking off his armor, and then he killed me. And I was like, God damn it, I have to do all of this again. But no, this one was cool. I mean, like you said, this one has the best like visual communication. You can actually see it's like the ruins of some city, which by this point all you have seen is mountains and rivers. So it was cool to see like something a little more developed. This one's great. I think there's a reason this one's in our top 5, like all 3 of us.
It also helps that you literally fought one of these Panthers before, so you do know where the weak spot is, and so you're relatively confident you're not just following a red herring for half an hour, which I did more than a few times.
It's also, despite your frustrations with landing the jump stab at him, it's also one of the like only 2 times in the game that you actually could, even if you wanted to. So I appreciated that. I was like, oh, I can finally jump stab. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I don't even know what you guys mean by jump stab, but we'll just roll with it.
You can like down thrust whenever if you press the attack button while you're in the air, you can like down thrust.
Sure,
and, stab it.
If you say so.
You have to fall from like quite a ways for it to actually start to trigger, but
and like it's inconsistent like everything else in this game, so it's not surprising that you don't know.
If you look at like the videos of the speedrunners doing like the time attack mode, they find a lot of creative uses for the jump stab for sure, but it's not something that one, I mean, like most of the things in this game, it never tells you about it, so you definitely have to figure it out on your own. And then even once I figured it out, I found very little use for it. So
yeah.
Moving on to our next favorite one here. It's actually the intro Colossus, the one with the club, the very first one. I'm gonna let you guys talk about this one because I just felt like this was seriously so boring. I stopped playing the game the first 2 times I tried to play this game. So I'm gonna let you guys explain why you find this one so compelling.
Look, I really like the first Colossus because I think it really sets the scene for what you're in for. Like, every other time I've played this game, I've always gotten through, because I've probably tried this game like 10 times and always gotten through like the first 2 or 3 Colossi and then dropped off of it. But one of the things that always kept me coming back is like this opening experience with the scale and the music, and like you see this giant towering bear thing and you have to like climb up its legs and get to its head and stab it in the head. And then like after you do kill it, at least in this run through, this time of me playing it, I did legitimately feel bad after like hearing its death cry and it like laying on the ground. And I was like, man, I did just like murder this thing for absolutely no reason. And I know I'm trying to save the girl, but it's like, it's just hanging out here. And I like climbed up and stabbed it in the head a bunch of times. And I think it just really sets the tone and sets the kind of atmosphere for the rest of the game. And while I don't think the rest of the game necessarily lives up to that, I do really like the tone setting that the first one does.
Yeah.
You had a weapon. You feared for your life. Stand your ground.
Whoa. Different podcast, Adam. Different podcast. I very much echo Austin's opinion here. It felt like a decent setup and opening for the game, and like it was telling me what I could expect. I just anticipated the other Colossi to like build upon that. And the first one is more of a warning of like, yeah, this is the game. It's just this and some other random arbitrary bullshit you have to figure out in each fight. So yes. We'll talk about that.
Get there.
But I think I liked the first one just because it didn't feel pretentious or overly involved. And playing it on hard, it felt deadly. He stepped on me and fucking killed me. And I was like, all right, let's go.
Well, and there's also, you have no precedent to set against it at this point. It's just like, what is this game? And it's like, oh, you're climbing all these crazy beasts and stabbing them. And it's like, your mind starts to envision what could happen in the future. And again, I don't necessarily think the game lives up to that, but to start here, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it even, getting there is one of the, 3-4 jumping puzzles in the game. So I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, that's something. When I went back on normal and played the first few, that's something, again, Austin, you kind of mentioned this earlier. The platforming segments in this game can actually be kind of interesting sometimes. And it's like they just forget that every time they make one for 6 more Colossi. And then you're like, oh, there's another one. And then they forget again.
It's like, oh, we have to jump again. Oh, wait, never mind.
Maybe that was as good a time to say this as any. I hated navigating to the next Colossi in this game, like so much, to the point where I think the 8th one was the last one I did. I was trying to get to the 9th, and I was just like, I fucking hate this. And I put my controller down, and I come back, and my wife has navigated to the next one for me. And I was like, great, that's your job now. So I did not get to any of the rest of them on my own.
I tried to get my wife to take over for me, and she got so frustrated that she just went to go do something else instead.
Understandable.
And it's worth noting, it's because, controlling the horse feels very weird, very unintuitive. They say it's because you're not controlling the horse, you're controlling the guy on the horse. And like, sure, I mean, that's an interesting idea. I don't think it really comes across in a way that's like interesting or engaging though. It's just frustrating the way he randomly stops or won't turn or won't start. And then the second part of the navigation is just, there's no mini map, there's no compass. It's all about, you reflect the sunlight off your sword and it kind of makes this laser that points in a direction, but it's truly just a straight line to your destination. So like, you'll frequently come up against just mountain walls or canyons, and you have to kind of find a way around. And just like taking one wrong turn will put you so far away. And then it's just the idea of getting back on the horse to go back through these like narrow passageways through a forest that you did to get here. I couldn't stand it.
And the map is like utterly useless for 95% of the game. Like, it just shows you dead colossi and nothing useful.
Yeah,
And the parts of the map aren't even explored until you get there, so it doesn't help you getting there.
Right.
I had a decently good time running across the open landscapes on multiple occasions. But like the failing point here is that like the third Colossus is you have to weave your way through these narrow mountain passes. And it's like you haven't spent enough time navigating the world for them to embed these next several colossi like in these like weird places. Like if they had just changed up the order of some of these arenas or just how they interact with the landscape, it would have worked better. But yes, because you don't really know where stuff is, like having to navigate through canyon passes for a colossi like 3, 4, and 5 is one of the lowest moments of the game.
And I do think a lot of the open areas are fun to navigate.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that. Like when you're just in the open world and like looking at all the landscape and the atmosphere is kind of there's not really a lot of music, but it's like that just kind of somber running through these empty fields. Like that can feel cool. But like you said, anytime you have to do any like fine-tuned navigating, it's like just miserable to me.
And it's like, you could be moving faster if you were on the horse because he can run fast, right? But you got to get off the horse because he keeps like stumbling over stuff. And I don't know. I think I was on hour 8 of my gameplay before I figured out he could jump over things.
When he decides to.
Right. Some things he could jump over.
If he wants to that day, if he's feeling jumpy.
I think another problem with always being on the horse too is you move so fast that you cannot see the lizards on the ground that you can kill to get their tails to get more stamina. Because I did not see a single one of these until my way to the last Colossi.
I mean,
I never saw one once.
Oh, I saw a ton, but like, what part of this game made you want to deal with collectibles? Like, I was not going to touch collectibles in this fucking game.
I was say the only collectible I ever found was the little golden coins that apparently do absolutely nothing until you get like 80 of them.
I didn't realize that you had to press R2 to actually pick them up. So I just like walked through half a dozen of them and failed to actually like pick them up. So
I only figured it out after struggling to figure out how to pray at the temples for the longest time, the shrines.
Oh, I didn't know how to do that
That
either.
was R2.
Yes.
I was like, okay, R2 must just do everything involving your hands, right? But yeah, the worst part with the little coins is that, like, there's not a thing saying like 1 of 79. There's not even there. Literally nothing happens, but the little golden thing disappears. And so I was like, is that a glitch? Is that a bug? It's so dumb, dude.
Don't forget, this is us talking about the stuff we liked about the game.
Oops.
Yeah, I almost got us sidetracked there. Let's move on and get through the last two that I think were all of our favorite two anyway. So this should be good. We'll start with 13, which was the flying dragon in the desert. I loved this one, man. And a large part of why I loved this one is because everything I hated about the other ones was kind of gone, right? So even though you're on the horse, which can be a pain in the ass sometimes, it's a really wide open area. So you're not as I think it's like way easier to avoid brushing up against a tree root that brings him to a complete halt, or not getting him to stop or accelerate when you want him to. And you can hold L2 to keep your vision on the dragon in the sky. And it's just the horse was not a big problem here. By this point, I had figured out that I was never holding the bow long enough. So now that I had, I knew to charge the bow fully up. I had no problem hitting the little sacks. There was visual clarity immediately. The sacks start to deflate. So like great visual feedback. And then you get on him and you go into the sky, and he eventually like will dive down into the dirt again to the sand to kick you off. So it's like you might have to do it a couple times, but I really liked this one. This was by far, I think, my favorite.
I think this is the best fight in the game by a wide margin for exactly the reasons you're talking about. It's in a wide open area that's brightly lit, not the fog from the geyser fight or whatever, right? So you can see everything. The immediate visual feedback on popping the sacks, and the sacks are very prominent and obvious, despite the fact that they don't glow blue or green or whatever, they clearly look like weak points. And then you actually get to use aggro in a fun way where it feels like you're pulling a train robbery, right? Like you're running up alongside the flying wings and leaping from him. So fucking cool. Like this is the first time I was completely fine with repeating a cycle on a monster because it was so much fun leaping from my horse's back onto the wings, climbing my way up. The little junction going from the wing to the dragon's back actually required a little bit of thought. It wasn't just getting lucky that you didn't get stuck in a weird ankle joint or whatever and it wouldn't let you climb. It was clearly a jump you had to make. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like this is a legitimately good boss fight in any video game, not just for Shadow of the Colossus, right? Like so much of this has been like, this has been fun for Shadow of the Colossus, but like this is, you can throw this in any game and I'm like having a blast with this fight. Like climbing up the wings, scaling, stabbing him in the back, like just the grand epicness of it as it's flying through the sky and you're just like chasing it on aggro. It's so cool. This fight is awesome. I don't have much to add outside of like what you guys have already talked about, but for all those reasons, like this one is just awesome. It just comes so late in the game.
Yeah, this is the fight that made me feel like I want to play a sequel to this game because they know how to do it.
Right.
This is correct. This is good gameplay. I want to do that 15 times. That would be great.
Right, like if every fight was like this game would be awesome.
5 out of 5 stars. Instead, way more of the fights are like the stupid fireball turtle or whatever the fuck it was.
Oh God, we'll get there.
Anyway, Austin, I'll let you talk about what I think is your favorite fight.
Yeah, my favorite fight, as much as I love Dragon in the Desert, right? As much as I love 13, I think number 5 is my favorite. The bird on the lake, right? This is the first time you fight a flying creature in the game, and I think there's just this really cool sense of epicness to this because you're in a lake, so you have to swim, which is unfortunate, but you can get around it because you only have to swim to like one section, and then you can just kind of stay in that area and not really go anywhere else, which is like, okay, perfect. Because this bird will come flying at you after you kind of shoot arrows at it to get its attention. It'll come soaring down at you, and you're like standing on a piece of like wooden platform in the middle of this lake. And as he's flying at you, you have to jump and grab onto his wing as he's like flying straight at you, and then climb down to the edges of his wings so you can stab him, and then like climb down to the edge of his tail so you can stab his weak point there. And I think this is the first fight that gives you the sense of scale and epicness that the game is going for, that it only achieves at a couple other moments that we've talked about. But like this one is the first time where I felt a rush of like, whoa, this is really cool. And I think it stuck with me, and that's why it sticks as my favorite. Is like it's the first time that I felt that feeling of like I get the vision of this game.
Yeah, he like flaps his wings and does like a barrel roll while you're riding on the back of him, and it just feels
and you're just like gripping on for dear life, like oh my god, don't let go.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. The as you stand on his back, the wind whipping by physically pushes like your character down the Colossus model. So it's very convincing that you are clinging to the back of a bird trying to take it down.
I like this one a lot. My only issue with this one, and when I went back and played it on normal, I beat him in one go, so it like wasn't a problem. But when I was playing it on hard, so unlike say that turtle in the lake, where if you fall in the water, he's right near you anyway. You're trying to climb on him, all good. The eel in the lake, you fall off, well, he'll come back to you, all good. This fucking bird, dude. So he flings me off at like the edge of the lake somewhere. In order to get his attention again, you have to stand on this little platform and shoot him with a bow. So you have to go to this one well, there's like three, but they're right next to each other in the center of the lake. Now, dude, it took me 90 seconds of just straight swimming to get back to the platform. And then you have to shoot him with the bow, and then he comes again. And like, I fell off a couple times, and that just made this one so arduous. But I do think like on normal, it's pretty fun. And once you figure out like, even on hard, like when you should let go to get your stamina back, which is just not always clear because he never really stops like flailing around, but eventually he stops flailing around enough to where you can stand up. It's not too bad. And I think running all the way down the length of the tail to the final one was really cool, and seeing him like plunge into the lake in the death cinematic. All in all, this one's pretty great.
Yeah, when I started off on hard, when he leaps at you, I had the audacity to think that you were supposed to jump like onto the wingtips, like not his center of mass. And he one-shotted me repeatedly, which meant I spawned back at the beginning and had to swim back out to the center of the lake. So I empathize.
I feel like I didn't have that experience because like when I got thrown off, it happened to usually be near the platforms, or like I wasn't too far away that it didn't feel. And I got thrown off a couple of times, but probably not as many times as you guys did on hard. So it didn't. I didn't have those same frustrations with this particular fight.
So I think, unfortunately, we have now come to the point in the podcast where everything good to say has been said.
Wait,
this game.
I have one more thing. I think the soundtrack is great. It's good soundtrack. Epic music when you're clawing onto the back of a Colossus and stabbing it. Good soundtrack.
That's interesting. All I noticed is that there's no music when you're running around. And, that was my opinion of the soundtrack.
Good songs while fighting, I guess. Good music.
I think I think some of the ambient sound, like when you're fighting, some of the like high intensity orchestral stuff is cool. None of it like left a huge impression on me. I know a lot of people praise this game's soundtrack, like, oh, one of the great PS2 soundtracks. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
I'm just saying, if you played like the boss soundtrack out in the world and I heard it, I would be like, what do I need to climb? Where am I? I'm ready to go.
That's fair. That's fair. It's like it gets you in the mood to climb.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the game's gorgeous for sure. Just to make sure we covered all the good things before we move into 30 minutes of trashing this game.
This game has a lot of great ideas, I think, with some subpar execution at times and some downright awful execution, like the next 5 bosses that we're about to talk about. All right, let's talk about the Hidey horse.
Okay. So the first one on our list of bottom 5 here, and the way we did this is I just made a little Excel list and we all ranked 1 to 3 of our favorites, and then or gave them a 3-star rating, right? And then I just took the best and the worst at the bottom.
Oh, it was only supposed to be a 3-star rating? To be clear, all of my ratings are out of 5, okay?
Oh, perfect.
Oh, really?
Perfect.
The highest score I gave was a 3-star, so.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
So it works out. It works out enough anyway.
The first one that we're going to talk about, we're calling the Hidey horse. This is the 4th Colossus. It looks like a giant horse. All in all, I don't think this one's that bad. It was just a problem for me on a lot of these Colossi was that the thing you're supposed to do, and like the thing that you're supposed to do, it just won't do. Like it just won't work. With this one, you're supposed to run under these little tunnels, and he kind of like pokes his head in, and while he does that, he lowers his butt, and then you can come out one of the other tunnels and hop on his butt. I don't know what you're supposed to do to actually make him do that though, because there'd be so many times where I would like hide, and I'm using L2 so I can kind of look through the wall and see where he is. And I'm like, okay, he's coming closer. That must mean he's dipping his head. And I run out the other one, and he's not. He's just walking away. And I don't know. I just can never get this to consistently work. Once you get on him, it's like fine, right? But getting on him was just a total pain in the ass for me.
I think this one's just really boring, right? Like, not only is it hard to get it to trigger, because I also have the same problem, right? It's just like, it doesn't have the same sense of scale to me as like the first one or the second or even the third. Like those first three have like a cool sense of scale for me. This one doesn't have that sense of scale because like the arena is kind of small. The horse isn't that big. Like it's big, but I guess the way it's like structured, it doesn't look as big or as like imposing as the other ones. And it's just like really not that fun for me. And it's hard to get it to trigger. So it's just like this one leaves me with like negative emotions because it's just so nothing.
Once I switched to normal, I had completely forgotten about this fight because it was just so like quick and fast for me. I think this was the Colossus that I was like, okay, I can keep playing on hard. Because after the first three, like from the temple to killing him, it only took me 10 minutes for whatever reason. And then I just completely forgot about the fight. So whatever.
Yeah, it's just very forgettable. It's very like, I don't know. It's like to call it bad would maybe be dramatic, but to me it's bad because it just is such a nothing.
It again,
like it's just
it like illustrates the inconsistency of some of this like boss scripting. It triggered fine every time for me, but it clearly didn't for y'all.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. No, I had a lot of trouble getting it to like do its stupid head thing.
The next one was the final Colossus, and I'm calling this the Tower of Suck because like that's more or less what it felt like, was climbing a giant tower of things that weren't super fun. Although I gotta say, I thought this one was pretty decent up until the top part, because I thought it combined a lot of elements from the other ones, right? You have to run in some tunnels underground, you have to take cover behind these fireballs, you gotta deal with the shakes as you climb. Like, for the most part, things we had seen before, all good. And then you get to the very top. And Austin, it's just like I can't even speak straight right now. This enrages me so badly. Why don't you describe what happens at the top?
You know, I love this one getting there, right? Getting to it feels so cool. Like hiding under the tunnels, dodging the fireballs, everything's super great. Once you get to the top, first, like you have to climb up I guess it's his left arm. I don't know if it's his left or right. Whatever. Yeah. You have to climb up one arm and like stab it in the shoulder. And when he does that, he'll like reach over to grab you. And then you have to leap to his other hand. And this when things start to go bad. Like so far, so good.
Start to.
Once you get to
we'll talk about that. Okay, go ahead.
Once you get to his other hand, there's no weak point. And at no point in this game, from Colossus 1 through 15, does it ever indicate that you should stab a Colossus where there's no weak point. Except for this one.
It makes him stable. That's never what happens. Right. They go berserk when you stab them.
Never at any point in this game has stabbing a Colossus not in a weak point done anything to help you. But this time, it stabilizes his hand so that you can then shoot the weak point that's on his like upper shoulder. Which, again, at no point in time in this game has shooting a weak point ever done anything for you. 0 times. Except for this time on the final Colossus. Even from there, like getting to his head felt annoying. Like everything about this fight, once you get to the actual part where you're climbing the Colossus, like once you can actually grab onto his like fur, is just miserable to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I fell from those hands 15 goddamn times. Go ahead, Adam.
It's awful.
So it's possible, there's like the 2 different weak points. There's like the main one, and then there's like the bloody one that kind of will open up another weak spot. Mm-hmm. It's possible shooting those on other Colossus does something, but I don't really know because there's maybe 3 in the whole game.
Yeah, Colossus 15, the one right before this, I shot his elbow to get him to drop his sword. This is the only reason why I was like, okay, and now you shoot the shoulder. Okay, but that hand they hand is ridiculous. It violates all of the rules of the game so far. And it's like one of the last 3 weak points in the whole game. It's like one of the last things you do. And it's just like, hey, get fucked. Which is how I felt the developers approached this entire boss was like, hey, you know how you've been doing things for this whole game. How about just fuck you? Oh my God.
And then the last weak spot, like I really was expecting to be really epic, or maybe he would like reach his hands up there and try to slam you. It's just the boring shake from all the other ones. You just wait.
Yep.
Yeah, this one was both frustrating and anticlimactic.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to get thrown off of that last one. It's like tricky to get there though, because of like the platforming at this point just feels frustrating. Like it's like hard to land exactly where you want to while he's moving. So it's like, okay, let's just like figure it out over here. This one almost got me to quit. But if I didn't know it was the last one, I might not have finished this game.
Yeah, if y'all,
it was infuriating for me.
For sure. If y'all hadn't already beaten it, I might have given up on this point too. Never before in the game have you ever had to complete like such a long sequence of events in order to get the payoff. Otherwise, it's been relatively forgiving. And this is like you have to do 15 different climbs and stab 4 different weak points to finally get to the part where you can make progress on the boss.
And if you die at any point, you have to do it all over again.
Yes.
So,
thank God I was doing this. Yeah.
It's a journey back up.
Yeah. It is not a fun time. I hate this fight.
Thank God I was playing it on normal. This is actually the only Colossus on normal that killed me, was this boss. And even dodging his fireballs were hilarious. He blasted me clean off of the mountain at least twice. I didn't know he could do that, but it's...
I mean, it's like instant death. If he sees you, you're toast.
Yeah,
It's over.
yeah. Which
Like,
you know what, they do a good job creating a boss that feels like you are trying to fight something impossibly more powerful than you. Like, how in the world are you ever going to win this fight? But then actually, like getting through it was not like satisfying or rewarding enough. It felt so bad that I started laughing at it because, of course, he one-shotted me clean off the mountain into the abyss. And then it's very funny when your controller rumbles as you finally hit the bottom.
It's definitely another one where the visuals are awesome and they just don't. It's like the sense and the feeling you get looking at it is not congruent with the one you get actually trying to beat it.
I really wish I had gotten some clips because, like, when you first see him, you like run up, you kind of like walk up a ramp and then you see him. And the time between me seeing the Colossus and the first fireball connecting with my face is like 1.5 seconds. And then Wander just sort of like pathetically slides back down the ramp and lays there for his full 20 seconds. So,
yep.
And this is another one where I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but there seems to be like, so when you're climbing these Colossus, right, there's obviously the huge movements they do to try to shake you off, and you hold R2 to grab, and that stops you from being thrown off, right? But there's these other times where it's almost like these little micro stutter or like micro shakes that they'll do, where Wander just randomly loses control of one hand and like stops climbing. And I never found a way to deal with that and make it any less frustrating. Like eventually I got used to it, but I wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong or it's just meant to be like a random interruption to what you're trying to do constantly.
I mean, there seems to be a relatively sophisticated system to how he like clings on to monsters. And this part actually makes it believable to me that they did something like technically interesting with how that like physics mesh or whatever works, but it just doesn't play well because there are a lot of times where he'll be stuck with barely clinging on with one hand, but the Colossus isn't moving all that much, but he's like physically oriented in the wrong way or something. It doesn't work well.
Yeah, the worst instance of this to me was on the Salamander, who we'll get to in a second. But he's flipped over, he's immobile, and I'm just letting go of R2 to reposition myself, and he stumbles and falls off. And I literally turned it off and had to come back and do it again because I was losing my fucking mind. But I'll ask you guys this. Was this tower worse than the next one, number 10, the Torch Tiger?
Yeah, I think maybe.
I hated the final boss the most, but go ahead, Austin.
Well, I just wanted to point out that, like, I guess spoilers for our bottom 5 here, but the next 3 are like literally consecutive 8, 9, 10. And we're gonna go in reverse order. But like the middle chunk of this game is so bad. I was getting so frustrated in the middle chunk of this game. Number 10 is frustrating for reasons that I think are different than the final boss. Like I hated the final boss a lot, but 10 is really irritating because for me, he just kept hitting me, and Wander takes forever to stand up. So while this fight wasn't particularly hard because I was on normal, it was just so infuriating because he's a smaller Colossus. So his method of preventing you from hurting him is to just constantly run into you. And every time he did, it takes Wander like 20 seconds to stand up, and then he just hits you again. So until you figure out what to do, you're just constantly stuck in a cycle of getting hit in the face by this stupid tiger and then standing up for 20 seconds and then repeating until you figure out what to do. And I hated that.
On the hard difficulty, he can like two-shot you with the rams, and you have to start all over. This is the Colossus that made me quit and just restart the game on normal, which was way better. Like such a good idea. Thank you, Torch Tiger.
It really does take so damn long to stand up, and I don't understand that. And that's a problem in every fight, but it's like usually they're not going to attack you again in the 8 seconds it take you to stand up, but this guy will.
Yeah, I feel like I had only been like laid out on my ass like maybe half a dozen times before this fight, and then in this fight I spent most of it on the ground, just laying there watching Wander helplessly.
Ragdolled.
Yes.
I literally like my one note at this fight when I was playing it is like, why does it take so long to stand up in like all caps?
So what you ultimately have to do to this one is kind of cool, right? It's like, but again, it's the process of making it happen that's infuriating. So in between getting, kicked around like a kickball, it's you have to like get on top of these brazier things and have him charge into it, and then a torch drops and you pick it up. And this, like, you have to do something with the fire, because the little voice that always comes in with its halfway useless hints are like, ooh, you should try something with fire. So I'm like standing in front of them, waiting for him to charge, dodging out the way at the last second, and trying to get him to ram into these things. And I think I'm just doing it wrong over and over and over. And part of this is because one time he hit me into the corner next to one of them, and my camera just lost its mind. So I was like, okay, you don't want to get on the side of these things. The camera fucks up. No, you do, because that's how you climb them. And then that's how you get on top of them. This one took me like nearly an hour in total, just because I couldn't figure out how to actually get the torch to work. Turns out once he hits it, torch gets on the ground, you pick it up, and then he's scared of you, and you can back him off of this cliff where he falls off and his armor breaks and now he's vulnerable. And I was like, hey, that whole thing is actually really, really cool. But the part where, A, you can't get off the fucking ground, and 2, you have to hit the torch thing in the exact specific spot, I think just really brought this one down for me.
Yes. Driving him off the cliff with the fire, one of the like coolest moments while fighting a Colossus. Everything else about this fight sucks though. Also, when have I ever picked something up before? I couldn't even figure out how to drop the torch for a minute, because I was like, I don't pick things up. Like, what do I do with this?
Yeah. I think this is the first and last time you have to pick something up.
It's the only time. Again, it's some random bullshit.
It is baffling where it's like, it reminds you of something like It Takes Two or Split Fiction, where like it throws a random mechanic in, but unlike those games where that random mechanic is like cool and thought out and used for like 20 or 30 minutes, this game is like random mechanic is used for 5 seconds and then never seen or looked at again. And it's just, man, it gets really frustrating. And I think if this fight didn't have the constant like ragdolling that Wander ends up becoming, is just like this constant ragdoll, this would be less frustrating. But the fact that I spent most of the time like on my back was just, it made it so bad for me.
It's really funny to see how well the Panther like Colossus tracks you when you move. Like the trick is to do the jump out of the way without ever like actually moving your feet. You can't take a step one direction or the other. You have to jump and then push your stick to the side, and that's how you can dodge him pretty consistently. But it was very frustrating to like, I would repeatedly like lean into where I was going to jump. And then he's like a goddamn homing missile and then would like
Right.
fling you across the arena.
Yeah, if you try to dodge to the sides, like I was able to kind of get it to work by rolling almost into him, but just like slightly to the either side of him as he's charging. But if you dodge like you think that you would, like straight to the side, he just turns. Like, I mean, he just turns with you midair and slams you. Like, it's really obnoxious.
Not as obnoxious as number 9, though.
This one sucked. Holy cow.
I think this is my personal least favorite. The quote fireball turtle.
Number 9.
I hate this guy. This one is I guess the first one in like a really open area where you have to ride around with aggro in like a big open space, and it's just aggro doesn't control well. The environment is foggy and hard to see. The Colossus itself like moves so slow. I mean, he's a turtle, I get it, but he moves so slow. And he can just shoot these fireballs from like a incredible distance that will do a ton of damage to you and like fling you around. And I hated this one because the ultimate thing you're supposed to do with it is walk it under a geyser that's like shooting out in this like vast open field, and it's like shooting out this air and it like kind of knocks him over, or the water, and it kind of knocks him over. And those are inconsistent. They don't always trigger. He has to be like right under it for it to work. It's so inconsistent. It's so slow. It's so painful. I hate it. It's my least favorite one, I think.
The fireballs were killing me because, I mean, they were literally killing me, but they were really annoying to me because, like you said, when you're far away from it, it's shooting them constantly. So I was thinking, okay, let me get close. But if you get close, like at the wrong time, like as he's starting to, you are now so close to him that he can't miss you with the fireballs. So that was annoying as hell for me. And then I just couldn't figure out how to really get him to move consistently, because I feel like if I'm too close, he just wants to stomp or I get killed by the fireballs. If I'm too far, he just shoots the fireballs. Like it just, I couldn't figure out how to actually get him to move where I wanted. But I feel like if you just run around in circles far away from him, he eventually starts moving toward you. But then, like you said, he walks over these geysers and like most of the time, nothing happens. Sometimes he goes up on 2 legs and you can shoot the bottom of the other 2 and he flips over. Other times he just flips over the whole way on his own. But most of the time, nothing happens. And it's just, oh God, this one, I did not like this one.
The inconsistency in this game is just infuriating.
This is where I learned that Aro just like doesn't know how to sprint quickly. It's like there are fireballs incoming at us right now. I need you to move. And she just doesn't know how to move quick. Oh well, that's just how a horse works.
When you die and have to
that's just how a horse works.
When you die and have to start over, you're like right next to the horse. But sometimes like getting on it is not always the easiest thing. And there were definitely times I died like instantly, like before I could even get the horse to move on my retries.
It is funny. It's really funny to see Wander just like try and jump on the horse and like fail. And he's just like he's just like splayed across the horse and like scrambling up the side. And I'm like, I thought you were just climbing a giant rock monster. How can you not mount a horse? Like, what do you... So
you can get on it from behind, and he does it in the dumbest way possible.
Yeah,
which I guess is kind of a cool detail because it's like, well, you didn't get on it from the side. It's like, yeah, but that's partly because the horse has a seizure every time you approach it. So like, just have him climb up like a normal person.
It's fine.
Yeah. Well, now we'll talk about what I think is probably my least favorite. I think it's Jeff's least favorite too. And this is number 8 because, like we said, 8, 9, 10, the gauntlet of suck. But 8 is we call it the Salamander. It more or less looks like one, and you're in kind of this like ruined cylinder almost. And so he climbs these walls, and you can kind of run around the outside of the cylinder, and there's like stairs. There's different levels going up. And the idea is that when he's climbing up, you shoot him in the legs, and after you hit 2 of his feet, he loses his grip. He falls over on the ground, and then you can run down there, climb on his belly, and stab him. One of the problems I was having with this is he shoots, like, are they balls of like poison gas? I'm not even sure. They're like this yellow mist that just fucks you up. Like nothing in this game at any point killed me as quickly as these gas balls. And then 2, I wasn't getting, like I kept trying to shoot the feet. And I think this was before I realized I wasn't holding the bow down long enough because I thought my arrows were hitting his feet and nothing was happening. So I just thought, well, that must not be what you have to do. And I spent 20 minutes looking for something else to do. And the worst part is When he's on the ground and you shoot his feet, nothing happens. Like what I thought would be a cool touch is that they turn colors like they do when you shoot him on the wall. But obviously he doesn't flip over because he's not falling. But that might clue you in like, oh, okay, like you're supposed to shoot the feet when he's on the wall. But again, complete failure in visual communication for boss 8.
I played this guy on hard. And like Adam is talking about, the gas balls will just silently kill you while you're trying to aim your bow like on hard in seconds. Like you can't even tell. I didn't understand the whistle would get Colossus' attention until y'all mentioned it. So this is the time when I kept trying to like peer over the edge and shoot arrows at him to get him to like climb up the walls. And half the time that would result in me like clinging on to the edge. One time I had almost killed him and then stepped out too far, started to fall, caught myself. And I was like, oh, thank God. And then his flame breath connects and then I fall to my death. And I was just like, oh my God. So I repeated this fight 3 or 4 times. And on top of that, every fight requires like 5 or 6 cycles to stab him to death enough. It's no part of this is fun. No part of it felt like I was really testing my skill. I figured out what I was supposed to do really early and just had to flawlessly execute it 5 times. But I guess this was supposed to prepare me for the final Colossus, which is just a long string of jumps that you have to execute flawlessly right in a row. Whatever.
Yeah, this one for me, like, I think conceptually this one has some cool ideas, but the execution, like much of this game, is just so bad. I wasn't even shooting his feet. I just shot him in the stomach, and I shot him in the stomach like 3 times, and that would also cause him to fall over.
Are you fucking?
Which is cool, I guess, that you can.
Are you serious? What?
Yeah, well, at least on normal, maybe not in hard. Who's to say?
You can shoot him in the stomach.
But okay, yeah. So like, if you shoot him in the stomach 3 times, he'll fall over as well. This was one where I was trying to get the jump stab, could never get the jump stab to connect right because like the angle is never right. And actually like climbing on him and stabbing him felt like it took forever to like get the right angle to climb on him, actually stab him, even on normal. And like, maybe I didn't have the same trouble with that on normal, or Jeff, maybe you didn't. But even on normal, like I feel like I had to repeat this one so many times, and it was just such a long process to get him to get the attention because I didn't know about the whistle either. So he's just like scaling the wall, and I'm like, "Come over here so I can shoot you." Like, just such a painful fight for me. It at least had a cool idea, unlike I think Fireball Turtle that has 0 cool ideas. But it is insufferable. Like it was the first point in the game where I was really like, God, this is miserable.
The number of times I ran up and down those stairs, because like on hard, I couldn't figure out if it was better to shoot him from cover so that he didn't like one-shot you with a gas ball, or if it was better to go down to the bottom so that he would fall farther. And I was trying to figure out if how high he fell from related to how long he would stay on his back. It was just so many variables that took so long to test every one. It was, on the bright side, repeating it on normal took me all of like 3 minutes. So fuck that Salamander.
I guess once you understand the whole process of it, like it's probably a lot easier. On
yeah, once you've ruled out all the other bullshit and know what to do, it's not that bad of a fight. But it's the getting there, the experimentation that this game just isn't good at.
Right, it's like it's cool that it wants you to experiment, but so often that experimentation is so frustrating that it's like, okay, this isn't enjoyable experimentation. I'm just annoyed.
Yeah, people like. So I do what I always do, right? I beat this game and I was like, what nonsense are people going to defend this game with on the internet over the last 20 years, right? So I'm reading all these old forum posts and stuff. And one thing people keep talking about is, every boss is like a puzzle. But I just don't know if I agree with that. What it feels like is a puzzle where there's 2 buttons, and it says, to solve the puzzle, push the red button. But then you go to push the red button, and some like greasy child has gotten chocolate in it or something. And so you press it 9 or 10 times before it finally fucking works. Like, that's what all of these bosses felt like to me. So it was like, no, I get the thing, but the thing won't work. It just won't do the thing.
I agree. I feel like any of the things you're actually supposed to do, like this game never wants you to do anything that is all that complicated. It's jumping, it's stabbing, it's hitting the blue glowy portion of the Colossus. But like, I don't know, figuring out how to get there is just so difficult. And it seems like you have to stumble across what is ultimately a relatively simple solution.
Yeah, stumble being the key word.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Just because you're always doing so. This should just be called Shadow of the Stumbles or something, or Stumble of the Colossus. That would work. This game, the reception of this game, in a lot of ways, kind of reminds me of the way people talk about Spec Ops: The Line, where like they talk about Spec Ops as this like cool, conceptual, artsy game, and that like it's supposed to be boring and it's supposed to be bad because you're like supposed to hate the way that it plays because you're supposed to feel bad about it. And I feel like people kind of treat this in a similar way of like, oh, like the struggles are supposed to be because you're being a monster and you're not supposed to kill these things and you're being the bad guy and you're working for the bad guy and killing these innocent creatures. But like I think for games, something that is just so often, right? Like we talked about it, games are supposed to be entertaining, and there's just so little entertainment value in struggling to interact with the game that you're playing, that it's like I don't think that works. And I'm not saying that's intentional. I'm not saying that like the developers tried to create a bad game or anything like that. But when people defend it that way, I'm like, okay, but it's still not fun. Like there's still no part of me that wants to play through the game. I'm not getting that artistic expression because I'm just annoyed. Like I never feel bad about killing these colossi because I'm just relieved to be done with it because the process of doing it is so infuriating.
But at least with Spec Ops, like there's enough going on with the narrative and the dialogue and the couple choices you get to make in the game and the different endings where you can see like there's some evidence of that being there. And even though the game itself, yeah, it's like a lot of just like rote cover shooter combat, it's still competent. It works like it does, even if it's kind of boring combat, right? So I think when people talk about that with Spec Ops, they're at least not pulling stuff out of their ass, which is like with Shadow of the Colossus, that's how I feel. Because like, brother, until, like we talked about this, until that final cutscene, this game is not doing anything to play into any of these themes at all. Like, I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I think people are like making things up to justify why they don't feel the same way about a game they played 20 years ago as they do today.
I could definitely agree with that because I do feel like knowing kind of some of the internet's reaction to this game, I can see that perspective of like, okay, when I killed the first Colossus, there was a sense of like seeing the shadows like attack Wander and like hearing the Colossus like kind of cry out as it falls. And it's like, okay, that was kind of sad. Like I can kind of get the somberness there, but so little of that is actually evidenced that without having that external viewpoint and perspective, I probably wouldn't feel that way while playing throughout.
I mean, so this is a show about reviewing old video games, right? And so there's always that chance that we talk about titles with, rose-colored glasses from our perspectives, like a sense of nostalgia that other people playing them today wouldn't get. I'm still completely convinced, though, that the only way you can be excited about this game is if you played it in 2005 and it was like an early gaming experience for you. I firmly believe this might have been an interesting game when it came out in 2005. I don't know if it was good when it came out, though. And it's certainly not something that is impressive outside of its era at all. Whereas I feel like we've talked about other games that are still impressive today. Like I would recommend go play Halo Combat Evolved to someone. I would never say that about Shadow of the Colossus.
I definitely think there's a lot of interesting ideas here, and I can imagine back in 2005, those ideas carrying a lot more weight than they do in 2025.
And it still might be one of the few games I can think of where you fight things this big. And like that's a cool feeling, the whole David versus Goliath thing, right? But ultimately, like I said, Austin, this game just isn't often fun, and I don't even expect games to be like fun for every second. There's other emotions you can trigger, right? Like I was just playing Resident Evil 7 last night, and as frustrating as that was, sometimes like it's scary sometimes, like right? It's uncomfortable. There's like dread of rounding corners. Nothing in this game was really engaging in that way. It was just like, oh, it finally worked. On to the next one, with the exception of like a couple Colossus, right? It was just. I never felt like people talk about this game being immersive. I never, ever could get immersed in this game because every 10 seconds, something is happening to where I'm like, good God, just do the thing I'm trying to get you to do, please. Whether that's climbing, steering the horse, navigating, just whatever it might be. I feel like I was constantly ripped out of like having an immersive experience just from the frustration of like the controls and the mechanics.
Yeah, I was really immersed that this game was built for the PS2, right? Like that's what I remembered all the time, is that this was built for a console generation that is long gone.
Yeah, maybe that's our final thoughts here. Do we just want to? I guess Jeff, you've already said that you don't recommend anybody play.
Sorry, I got to it early. I mean, we have to talk about the ending credits, but
I guess we do. Let's do that. So regarding the end credits and plot on this game, it's probably worth noting that, like Jeff, you said way earlier, is it Colossus 12 where you finally get a little scene that has to do with the story?
It is the opening title screen and then one cutscene after Colossus 12. Yes.
So naturally, by this point, I was skipping all of those things because what normally happens is you see a statue crumble, then you get a poor hint where your next Colossus is, and then you get control of your character again. And I was just no patience for this. But yes, okay, there's the one cutscene after 12, and then nothing until the end, right?
Yep, that's it. You go defeat the final boss, and then the party of guys pursuing you, and you have no idea who these people are. They are wearing the same mask as the corpse you brought in at the very beginning. You probably wouldn't remember that because that was probably like 5 hours ago. But yes, these pursuers that you saw after Colossus 12 finally show up and confront you and see the consequences of your actions.
Yeah, the main guy is immediately just like, "Do you know what you've done?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." Like, why don't you explain it to me?
But
And I guess the idea is, that thing that was talking to you this whole time was Dorman, and it's some sort of imprisoned being, right? Its essence was Horcruxed into these 16 colossi, and you end up transforming into this big demon thing, and you kind of get this last little gameplay segment where you can kind of slam your fist and try to hit them, which I think was a little cool because it kind of gives you like, man, is this how frustrated the Colossus were trying to hit me the whole time?
Yeah.
Because I can't hit these little fuckers at all.
Yep.
But the whole thing is like you stole a sacred sword, and that was the way that you were able to kill all these things. And it's like you shouldn't have. You're getting the impression you definitely should not have, because all of these this guy's like a shaman who comes and he kind of gives a couple lines of dialogue about why it was bad, and then as they're escaping, they just seal the temple behind them. And I guess you're like trapped there,
trapping Dorman forever.
Yeah.
But
Which
then
you happen to be Dorman now.
But then you get his corpse fades away, but then out of the pool of water gets resurrected like the little horned demon child.
All right, so this is fucking wild. Yeah, okay. So again, remember, the only thing you've done in this game is kill giant rock monsters or whatever, ostensibly to bring back this corpse that you carried in at the very beginning, who is your sister, wife, cousin, I don't know, someone who died unfairly to you. And like after you defeat the last Colossus, you get teleported back in again, except this time you're like a zombie with like these ice blue eyes, and you look like Dark Link from the Water Temple or something. You have this dramatic standoff. They kill you, and then the evil demon Dorman takes over your body, which is definitely a way to make you sympathize with the creatures you've been killing the entire time. I'm really sad that you can't kill any of the NPCs confronting you in this segment, because I was having so much fun being like, yeah, I am the Colossus now. Like, let's go. But you get defeated. They run off with the sword. And the shaman like tries to trap you at the last second. And there's this good sequence where like this giant blue light opens up and it's a big vortex and it's trying to suck you in to the shrine, to this pool or whatever. And it tears away parts of Dorman, leaving only like your shadowy body behind. And you can cling on to like the stairs and try and like fight against being sucked into the same demon portal that Lucifer was just sucked into or whatever. So you can hold on, and then your stamina eventually gives out, and you finally get like sucked into the portal. And that is the last time you get to control your character. And at the end of this whole sequence.
That whole sequence. Yeah, I thought that was all pretty cool overall. And it kind of made me wish like there was a little, like, take out 4 of the Colossus and put a few more sequences similar to this in the game that like explain some of the story and whatnot. Like, I think that could have been a better choice.
Yeah, the big plot twist, right, is the fact that you've actually been working for a demon the whole time, and no, he's not going to hold up his end of the bargain. He told you it was going to be a high cost, and the high cost is that, like, you are now the demon. He has inhabited your body, and he's being brought back to life. All these colossi were actually like ways that he was kept sealed, like kept his power broken across the land. It's such a good twist. It's just so funny that it happens at the very end, and there is no saving of the hero, right? Like, you basically die and get sealed into the vortex. But then after everything calms down and the guys who came to correct your mistakes, like, get away, the girl you were trying to save finally wakes up. Austin, what does she do when she wakes up?
I don't remember her doing anything other than like just standing there and just like looking around, and then Aggro shows up somehow magically.
With a full-on broken leg. By the way, y'all, if a horse's leg...
That horse is so dead.
That horse is dead. So she, like, finally wakes up, right? Which at this point I had been rooting for, like, her to stay dead. Like, I want this to have, like, a full bad guy ending or whatever. But she doesn't. She wakes up. She crawls over to this little pool that you've been sealed into. And what does she find there? None other than a demon baby with horns. And that's the point where I was just like, what the fuck is this game? The credits are actively rolling right now. Like art directors' names are scrolling by, and you're.
Yeah, I think I turned it off before then. I don't think I saw her find the demon baby.
Oh, what? It's
because I think credits are rolling by that point.
Yeah,
right?
they are.
I think I was just so done. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this.
I think the
I'm turning
credits
it off.
start when Aggro first gets back, right? And
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like slow moving stuff happening there, which we may have forgotten to mention on air. There's just right before the last boss, there's this like never ending story moment where the horse sacrifices itself so the boy can keep going, and you see it fall off this cliff into water. And it's actually kind of like an emotionally resonant scene in a game that has very few of them. But then of course, like, the horse is fine. So
it's not fine.
It's supposed to. It's supposed to be emotionally resonant. Except I fucking hate riding Aggro anywhere. So it's like
I was just mad it was still alive.
Honestly,
I was so annoyed when Aggro came strolling back in. I'm like, there's no way that this horse would live right now.
I agree with you, Austin. I was also annoyed. I was like, what is this lovely, like, little reunion moment? But then she went and picked up the demon baby. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So the rest of the credits is like her cradling this baby with Aro like limping around next to her. They like go to a different part of the temple, and like the land is kind of regrowing. They see some wildlife come out, and then they all kind of like injured Aro and like a deer and some hawks and birds all kind of like lovingly look on as your saved girlfriend like cradles this demon baby that may or may not be you. I don't fucking know. The point is, Aro is definitely going to die. They're going to eat him. Like, what is she going to live off of? Other than
This is the moment where my wife was like, "Oh, so it was a Disney princess the whole time."
apparently,
all the animals come out like.
Yes. But the implication, man, all the animals come out, and then you're like, how are they going to live? And yeah,
this is definitely one of those things where like. This is why people are saying this game is so artsy, right? Like this like whole like you sacrifice yourself for the maiden, even though you don't know you're doing that. But like that's why I think it would have been a bit more emotionally resonant if she didn't come back, right? Like Dorman was never going to uphold his end. She was never going to come back. You just did all this to free him, and he's like, "Mwah." But instead, she does come back. And then Aggro's there, and I was like, why is this happening? I did not like Aggro coming back. I did not see Demon Baby. I think I just skipped that because I was like, I'm done with this game. Credits are rolling. I'm moving on.
I mean, when the horse limps back in, that is the correct take, Austin. Like I was like,
I was just
sucks.
like, why? But then Demon Baby shows up and it changes things. I get it.
It's so fucking ridiculous. Anyway, before that, I spent 6 hours fighting Colossi, but by the end of it, it was all defeat a demon baby.
The animals coming in at the end really bothered me because I was thinking for a lot of this game, like, where is everything in this world, right? And I'm not expecting Ubisoft side quests or anything. Like, I'm not saying they should have filled it up with crap, but it's like there's a couple birds near the girl that'll fly away each time you go to a Colossus. And that's it. Like I kept looking for like squirrels or other birds or like any sign of life in this thing, which then makes me lead like, okay, so did we actually bring life back to this valley by killing all the colossi?
Yep.
Like, did we actually do good and fuck these shaman? Like, I don't know.
Maybe the demon god was right the whole time, Adam. Have you considered that?
Maybe that's the point of this game. Maybe you're not supposed to know what is right and wrong. Maybe you're just supposed to reflect on your actions or something.
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't feel bad about them at all.
I do. I'm not sure I should have spent so much time playing this game. But it is a very silly plot all rolled into the end credit scroll, which is just like the cherry on top of a very mid experience.
So like final thoughts here. I think if this is a game you played in 2005 and you liked it, I see no reason you wouldn't like this remake. I think though, if you kind of missed the train, you don't want to chase it and try to board it, because I just don't think you're going to end up going where you think you're going. I mean, I really just expected a different experience out of this. The way people describe it is simply not the way I would describe it. It is not the way I experienced it. There's a lot of things about it that I think just haven't really kept their impact over the years. Like, Jeff, you're talking about Halo earlier. I will die on the hill that Combat Evolved's level design is still some of the best in an FPS. Like, I just still think that part of it is so strong. I don't think the aspects of this game that were strong back then have remained strong. At least not gameplay wise. Like, you could still say the art is really cool and all of this, and I wouldn't even necessarily disagree. But anything that could like remotely be described as gameplay, I just don't think is engaging. Like, I think that's the main word I would use, is that it is not engaging.
I think so much of the highs of this game come in the scale and the scope and like the atmosphere and like this kind of grand sense of scale of you climbing and slaying these majestic beasts, right? Like that's kind of the tone that Shadow of the Colossus wants to set. And when it does that a couple, one or two times throughout the game, there's some like cool, exciting moments where it's like, yeah, like this is exactly what I thought this game would be. But so often I feel like it falls short of that. The mechanics themselves are frustrating more than they are engaging, like 90% of the time. And I think at its peak, there's some cool ideas and interesting concepts that it fails to execute, at least looking at it in 2025. Did it maybe hit a different way back in 2005 when a lot of these ideas were maybe more fresh, more innovative, more like unknown? Possibly, but I don't think it necessarily holds up the way that some of the other classics of that era would hold up, like Final Fantasy X or something. Just saying.
Yeah, it just didn't age well. I can imagine a world where I would have called this a good game in 2005, but it didn't age well.
All right, final question for Austin. Gun to your head, you have to play this or Okami 10 times through. You should standardize the time, actually. You have to play Okami for as long as it would take you to beat this game 10 times. That's
can I just play the middle of Okami?
Nope. You're stuck in a...
The middle of Okami versus the middle of Colossus.
That's an easy win. Man. I think Shadow of the Colossus has some interesting ideas that maybe Okami doesn't have as many of. Like, Okami's just like, let's try and do Zelda, but like worse. But I do think the highs of Okami are better than the highs of Colossus. I'll say that.
Shadow of the Colossus is like if Okami was nothing but the paintbrush that doesn't register when you want it to. That's how I feel about this game. 10 fucking hours of that paintbrush. That's what it felt like.
There you have it, folks.
And so ends our discussion on the 2005 open world epic Shadow of the Colossus.
You can find this episode, as well as all of our other episodes, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform.
And you can find us on YouTube and Blue Sky at the Games Gone By podcast.
Signing off for Games Gone By, I'm Adam.
I'm Austin.
And that's just how a horse works.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.